Hi, everybody. Welcome in. I'm so glad you're here. Today, we're talking about one of the most important things in your business that almost nobody gets excited about, but it can completely change how your CRM performs. And that is CRM cleanup and contact management. Now, I know this may not sound flashy, it may not sound fun, but if your CRM is messy, your follow up is messy. And if your contact management is messy, your sales process gets messy too. So today, I want to help you simplify this in a way that feels doable, not overwhelming. Because the truth is, a lot of business owners are sitting on a CRM that is full of duplicate contacts, old data, random tags, missing information, and names that nobody can even interpret anymore. And then they wonder why it feels so hard to use. Well, if the foundation is cluttered, everything built on top of it becomes harder. So let's clean it up together. First, let's talk about why CRM cleanup matters. Your CRM is supposed to help you stay organized, save time, and follow up consistently. But when it's full of duplicates and outdated contacts and incomplete records and too many categories, it starts to slow you down instead of helping you. And that is when people start avoiding their CRM. The one thing that can propel you into the success that you want, one of the things, then they start to avoid it. They stop trusting it. They stop using it. And then they go back to doing everything manually. And that is the opposite of what you need to do to grow and scale your company. And not just grow and scale your company, but just feel more peace, more peace of mind, feeling like your business is in good hands, your own hands. And doing everything manually is not that way. So that is exactly what we want to prevent. So here we go. The first thing I want you to think about is what kind of clutter is living inside your CRM right now? Maybe it is duplicate contacts, old leads that never got cleaned out, people with no phone number or no email, tags that no longer mean anything, contacts stuck in the wrong pipeline stage or even the wrong pipeline, or records that were created by different people in different ways. So there's no roadmap. It's kind of all over the place. This kind of mess is more common than you think. You are not alone. And please hear me say this kindly. If your CRM feels chaotic, that does not mean you are bad at systems. I'm going to say that again. If your CRM feels chaotic, that does not mean that you are bad at systems. Okay? It usually means that nobody ever took the time to create a simple, clear contact management process like that roadmap. So let's fix it. All right. Regarding duplicates and outdated records, one of the biggest problems I see is duplicate contacts. You know what I mean. The same person appears 3 times because they filled out a form, they got added manually, and then someone else imported them later. Now you've got 3 versions of one human being floating around in your CRM. That creates confusion really fast. So the goal is to create one clean home for each contact, one record, one set of accurate details, one clear place to track all communication. And while you're at it, review your outdated contacts at the same time. If someone hasn't engaged in a long time, and when we say engaged, we mean either talked to you or texted with you or opened an email or clicked on a link or bought something and that engaging with you. If someone has not engaged in a long time, if their information is bad, or if they no longer belong in your active list, these contacts should be reviewed and organized properly. Not everything needs to be deleted, but everything should be intentional. All right, now, regarding tags and categories, let's talk about it, right? Tags are helpful when they're clear. Tags are confusing when they're random. Now, mo moving on into tags a little deeper, if you have tags like VIP, hot lead, follow up later, maybe client, needs care, new one, important person, they might have made sense at the time when you made that tag, could have been months or years ago, but nobody really knows what any of those things mean today. You probably have new people in your company. Hopefully, if you're growing and you're scaling, you've hired people. They don't know what that tag meant to you that day when you made it. And honestly, you might not know what it meant either anymore when you made that tag. So instead, we're going to create a tagging system that actually supports your business. Thinking in terms like this: lead source, interest, client status, stage, and action needed. Tags that address those topics. That's it. You can get started with those kinds of tags. So, simple wins here in this aspect, because the more complicated your tag system gets, the less likely your team is to use it correctly. And the less likely even you're going to use it correctly, because you are going constantly at a high speed and you need simplicity in this area. When that happens, when people aren't using it correctly, your CRM stops being a help and starts becoming a headache. Now, on contact notes and history. Another part of contact management is the contact's history, everything you know about them, and all the different times that you've been able to touch base with them in different ways. This is where people often miss opportunities. If you have conversations happening across text and email, phone calls, appointments, just live seeing them at networking events, they've communicated with you through your website bot, all those different ways, but none of it is documented well, then the next person to touch that contact is walking in blind. Now, that is how clients feel like they have to repeat themselves over and over again. Nobody likes that. When you're working with a customer service or some business and you've already told this to someone yesterday or a week ago, and now this person you're talking to, you got to repeat the whole thing again. That is maddening, infuriating. You don't want to be the company where people have to do that. Nobody likes that. So, when possible, make sure the contact notes are clear, brief, and useful. Not a novel, not a wall of text, just enough so the next person knows who the contact is, of course, what they need, what has already happened, and what should happen next. That is how CRM starts to feel like a real support system. All right. On simple contact management habits, we're moving into simple contact management habits now. So let's talk about those habits that keep your CRM clean. With the first two subjects, we talked about how to clean it. Now let's talk about how you can keep it clean. Here are a few simple steps you can do. Review new contacts regularly. Merge duplicates as soon as you catch them. Because no matter how good you are with your CRM, it will happen. You'll get a duplicate contact, especially if someone has two email addresses or two phone numbers, which most of us do. They can get into your CRM twice. So you merge those contacts as soon as you find them. Use consistent naming and tagging rules. Those rules are very important. We just touched on that briefly, and we'll go into more detail on that in future broadcasts and future trainings. Keep only the fields that you really actually need. Remove clutter from old or unused categories. So categories are different from tags. So when your CRM has categories, remove the clutter, do a little house cleaning in there. Make sure your team knows the process also. Obviously, everyone on your team has to be using the same system and the same way in order for it to be very efficient. This is not about perfection, though. It's not. You don't have to be perfect. Your team does not have to be perfect. This is about consistency because a few good habits practiced regularly will do more for your CRM than a big cleanup once a year. So do little bits over time regularly. You're going to get a much better result. All right. Why this creates freedom. That's what we want, right? That's why we have systems. That's why we even started our business in the first place, was for the freedom to run our lives and our business the way we wanted to, right? So we wanted that freedom, and then we built kind of like a little jail cell for ourselves to live in, right? So here we go. Here's the part I really want you to hear. Good CRM cleanup and contact management do not just create order, they create freedom. When your contacts are clean, your follow-up gets easier. When your records are organized, your team moves faster and more efficiently. When your system is clear, you stop wasting time trying to figure out what happened. You know exactly what happened. The system tracks every step. The system tracks some parts of it, and your team and you make notes and tags and categories that tell the story of what this contact has been through with your company. And when you stop doing duplicate work, you get more space back in your business, more time for growth, more time for the work that actually matters. Yeah. So if your CRM is feeling messy, overwhelming, or hard to trust, this is your sign that cleanup is not optional, it is foundational. You don't need to fix everything in one day. We talked earlier about having a plan and a structure for your tags and your categories. This is another place you can use that plan. You can have the plan actually written out or drawn out, and you can say, this month we're doing this thing, next month we do this thing, next, or weeks, this week we do this, next week we look at this, next week we look at that. And so you and everyone on your team knows which piece of cleanup you're doing at what time. And it doesn't happen all in one fell swoop and disrupt anyone's workflow. So just start with one piece, merge duplicates. I need clarity, and clarity creates momentum. Thank you for being here with me today. I hope this gave you a little relief and a lot more confidence about where to start. Next week, we're going to go into further into systems and make them even simpler. All right, so now this is the time during the broadcast that we answer questions that have come in. A lot of people send me their questions in the email, and that's just fine. You can do that. People sometimes put questions in the chat here in the Zoom room, and that's fine too. So I'm going to just look and check. I've got a little list here of questions that people have sent me. Just going to give a minute and see if anyone here today has questions that they want answered. All right. So looking. Oh, I have someone, let's see, trying to join. Let me just take care of this. In the meantime, while I'm doing this, you can go ahead and put your questions in the chat. And I've got, like I said, a few questions that have come in over the past week. And so here we go. Just taking care of one thing here for someone who's trying to join. All right, let's start with the first question. So, staying with our topic today of the CRM and contact management and cleanup, the CRM cleanup and contact management. Somebody, let me see, this was Bob in California. He emailed in and he said, look, I constantly meet new people. I go to networking events and oh, here we go. We have, there we go, letting in our resident expert on cybersecurity. David Levine is joining us from ResTech Solutions. Welcome, David. So he's getting settled in here. Oh, here we go. Hi, David.
Hello.
All right. So today we've been teaching on a foundational piece of your CRM, and that is um, cleanup and contact management. So tags and categories and duplicate records and it's not sexy or flashy or fun, but it's really very, very important. And I'm very curious, before we answer Bob's question from California, what kind of impact does this have on cybersecurity if I do have these messy contacts and lots of duplicates, and I kind of have a whole bunch of junk in my contact trunk? Does this affect me when it comes to cybersecurity?
I'm going to say there's probably not a huge cybersecurity impact from in terms of, it having a security impact on the business. But what I kind of see, and I've been on the receiving end of some of this, is when you're getting multiple emails of the same email from the same sender, especially when it's like a marketing list, it's definitely more of a perception or reputation. Of your business that it will probably have a greater impact on than anything else, unless what you have in there, and again, it may not necessarily be a duplicate, but if you've got like unknown contacts, or if you've had people reach out that and ended up in your system because they were spamming you, because I do get that periodically through my own contact forms that dumps into my CRM database. You definitely need to have a mechanism to filter that out. I would definitely say you don't want to delete those, but do something to mark them as either like a void, or what I do in my system is I tag them as a spammer, So if they ever do reach out again, it's not going to send the automated, response, but it will. I I think what I did in mine is I put something in the send a reply or something that, hey, you obviously didn't pay attention to our form that it says this is not for solicitation and you've been basically blacklisted or something to that effect. So I let them know that, hey, what y'all sent was unwanted and we're not looking at anything else you send us here. So that's kind of one of the things that I've implemented because I've seen that. The other thing I do is, and again, this is what I've been taught from one of the marketing companies that I've been working with is on your forms, put a hidden bot checkbox for bots, and just call it bots. So because if a bot's coming to fill something out,
They're going to check all the boxes?
hmm that yeah,
Ah,
and because it's a hidden one, a actual person won't see it. They can't click, but a bot will be able to see that still.
oh man,
And so then we have
that
automation that will catch some of that as well.
I love that tip. That's fantastic. So I'm imagining when I build a form in my CRM, I can put checkboxes in there and then I can just, there is a button to say show or hide, right?
Yeah, and what it is, it's literally a custom field, and I call it bots. So I know that, hey, if this is checked, it was a bot that filled it out. And I also do that because it's another way. And yes, then obviously if it's a bot doing it, you don't know if someone on the other end is actually going to see what your system's going to send out. But that way I know to exclude it off my regular newsletter list and stuff because obviously I don't need that, potentially hurting my reputation or sender score.
Absolutely. And I my gosh, I'm so glad we went in this direction today. That was a huge, valuable tip. Now, you had said at the beginning when you were saying, obviously, you don't want to delete it. And I wondered, okay, that would be the first reaction of most business owners. It's trash, it's a spammer, so I want to delete them. Why would you want to keep them?
Because what if they come back? Then they're going to go through the whole rigmarole again when you already don't want them getting those communications.
Exactly.
So,
That's
and, and,
exactly
and
what I
that's why I
thought.
have that spammer tag. So I know if they do come back around and fill out something, the system already recognizes them as illegitimate.
Yes. So now, taking this one step further, some CRMs, well, possibly most CRMs, you have to pay, and many of them based on how many contacts you have. So, would this become an expensive practice for someone if they were paying for just sheerly the number of contacts?
I'm going to say it depends. Because it depends on the volume of stuff you're going to get. Like since I started doing this, I've probably got, just a, small handful, maybe 10 or less in there. But when you look at that, the larger my database where I've probably got thousands of contacts, it's a drop in the bucket. But the other thing I got to look at as well, does your system charge you for each message, whether that's email or text that you're sending out
Yes,
too?
yes. And
And then
speaking of,
also, as
yeah,
I mentioned earlier, your whole, sender reputation because you need an active and engaged list, and a spammer is not going to be that.
no, and you're then sending emails to addresses that never open them. And those spammers, they open and close those emails often, so you're then sending to a closed email account, which then makes you look like a spammer.
Hmm.
Now, I had another piece of advice from someone recently, and again, I found it to be like, huh? So she was talking about in your Gmail, not in your CRM necessarily, but in your Gmail or your Outlook, when you get emails from people you don't want anymore, maybe you did sign up and now you're not interested anymore, or you never signed up. There should always be an unsubscribe at the bottom of the email. That's the rules. And if you click that unsubscribe button, then many times they take your name and email and they sell it to a list because they can't benefit from you anymore. So they sell it. So actually clicking unsubscribe causes you to get even more junk mail. And her advice on that was n- don't not to set up a filter and just keep adding those addresses to the filter and just tell the filter to delete them before you ever see them. So does that jive with the advice that you would give as well?
I mean, so I've not heard that, but I'm going to say any legitimate marketer, once you say you're done, that should be all. They let you unsubscribe. They should not be selling your data. But again,
Right.
this goes back to, we don't read all the fine print on what we sign up for, even for free stuff. But even though it might not be illegal per se, and I can't speak on that, I'm not a legal expert, but is it ethical practice? I would say no. But and it depends on the system you're using because there's quite a distinction between a consumer email system and a business email system. And when it
Right.
comes to consumer, unfortunately, there's very little that anyone can do for you. Even the vendor like Microsoft, or wherever you're getting your stuff from, you're subject to whatever tools they give you because, again, it's a free service for
Hmm.
the most part.
Yeah. And this was talking about a consumer email address, but it once you have it set up, it seems like it's automation. It's so easy to manage because you don't even ever see them anymore. And yeah,
There is that, but I'll bring up another point, even though it may be very minor, but if you got people who are hitting their storage capacity that they're given on the free accounts, and if you're just filtering that stuff out and not getting rid of it, you're now eating up your space for
well,
legitimate stuff.
yeah, her advice was filter it and delete it before I ever see it. So it was just avoiding the unsubscribe. That way you didn't cause yourself to get a whole
Right.
bunch more.
Now, I will say this, I have unsubscribe. I usually do unsubscribe where there's an unsubscribe because if they put an unsubscribe, I don't want them to get dinged per se by me reporting it as spam because they are doing it the right way. Now, what they do after that, I don't know. Um, but I also sit in a little different position because I am a business owner, I own a business, so I am highly targeted because of that. So I can't really prove there's a correlation for me unsubscribing versus all the unsolicited email that I get.
True.
So, I'll put that caveat out there. But what I will say, there is more that can be done on the business side. And I will say this to any entrepreneur or business owner out there. If you're still running your business on free email, you're honestly doing your a huge disservice to your business on multiple fronts. But this is nor the time nor the place to dig into that unless
Exactly.
unless someone truly has a question about it. But from a business perspective, on a true business email system, there are more sources available that can, take care of those things in a much more seamless capacity than you can do on a free account. Again, similar manner, but obviously more options and more advanced, features to help keep a lot of that out of your stuff.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And this is right in line, pardon me, right in line with the question that Bob had from California. And he was saying, look, I've been running my business for a few years. It runs just fine with my Gmail address. I don't see why I have to stop doing that because he saw my advice that you definitely want to get a domain specific email address. And he's trying to figure out mm, what is the benefit or the detriment, let's say, to my business of using a free account like a Gmail.
Well, I'll tell you the one right off the bat. If Bob, if you were to email me today and I saw at gmail.com after reading your email, immediately you just lost all credibility because I cannot verify at this point if you are a legit business because anyone can set up an at gmail.com and it's rife with scammers and there's no easy way to tie it back because you don't have a branded domain, so I don't know truly where this email is coming from, and I get hit multiple times a day with these folks, and the very first action I do is, okay, mark it as spam and blacklist it. And that's the very first thing I will say to that question.
Yep, I hear you. I hear you. Um, Also, well, and here's the thing, if you're in business, and he definitely said he's in business and it's been a few years, he needs to be able to send an email to more than one person at a time. Let's say it's time for the meeting to start, or you want to send automated email. For example, when someone buys something from you, you want to send them a receipt immediately. And you can't do that with Gmail or any of those free accounts.
Right, because they put a lot of restrictions on what you can do because they're trying to cut down on a lot of these scammers using these platforms. But yet they still do. But again, it really goes to that credibility factor more than anything else, and obviously the fact that there are a lot of platforms out there that will not let you operate on their platform with a free email account. Like there's a years ago, I got involved with this review service tool, and they literally specified in there if someone's using a free account, you cannot use this feature or this service because of the way it works. And also now with the email mandates and everything that is out there, that Google, Yahoo, and now Microsoft, and a lot of companies are jumping on board, you cannot apply that to free accounts. And that also will disqualify you in that respect from being able to do certain things because you cannot put those email compliance components on a free account.
Exactly. Yeah. So you can't be compliant. I liken it to when you drive a car in America, you have to have certain things. If a police officer wants to talk to you or validate the fact that you belong with this car, you have to have a driver's license, proof of insurance, and a registration for the vehicle that matches the vehicle. And that's how I look at these credentials that we're talking about for email credentials that that validate you as a business, a legitimate business person, not a scammer. And so when you are using a free account like Gmail or Yahoo or Hotmail to run your business, you are like driving out there with no insurance in a stolen car in the business world. So thank you, David. That was a really great answer to that question from Bob.
And
And
and I'll answer another question that I anticipate that I can hear in my mind that Bob is now thinking, well, what's it going to cost me? Because I know that's
yes,
something I also hear all the time, and a lot less than you actually think. Because depending on the domain you get, you can get a branded domain, you know, on average, I would say, 10 to 20 bucks for a year. And then for the email service, if we're talking, let's say one user, at most, and we're just saying an email only at the most bare bones basic, and let's say another $6,200 a year. So all in all, let's say under $150 for a year for a business with one user at its most basic. Obviously, there are other tiers of service you can get, but I just want to make that clear as well that that's a very, very, very low barrier to entry. And again, it's a business expense, so it's something you can write off with your business and
exactly. And
something you
really,
have
what's
to
the
do.
cost of not being compliant?
Much higher if you think about the fact, like I just mentioned, I'm probably deleting your email and then blocking you permanently from reaching out to me. So that's potential business loss of new business. There's a higher likelihood that your emails may not get delivered. So are you able to then reach out to clients? Could you then lose existing business? I mean,
Exactly.
amongst many other things.
Yeah, absolutely. And the cost of not being compliant, well, you wouldn't lose your domain. I was going to say you could lose your domain, but you're not using it. You're using a free one. So, um,
Right, but even if you had a domain and weren't being compliant, you can get blacklisted.
yes. And when I say lose your domain, I don't mean GoDaddy's going to take it away from you. I mean it will be have such a bad reputation that you won't be able to use it to run it a business. That is different from using the free Gmail and Yahoo accounts. And welcome, Kim, to the show. And if you have a question, let us know. You can come on video if you want, or you can put it in the chat. And we're the subject today the training subject was CRM cleanup and maintenance. And then with David, he is a tech expert and specifically cybersecurity. So we've been talking about how your CRM helps you in business and protects you from becoming that person who is annoying the your clients by sending the wrong kind of information the wrong way, or we got on the subject of using a free account like a Gmail or a Yahoo account to run your business with and the pitfalls of doing that. So now that was a question that came in from the email.
Mhm.
And
And actually, if I can circle back real quick, because you said something on the CRM that I want to make a point about as well. Because this is what I advise, a lot of businesses that I work with, and Reed, I believe you do the same, that when you are setting up your marketing email, I assume you usually recommend people use a subdomain on the CRM to not
yes,
impact your main business
yes.
day-to-day email. But the other thing I want to point out is that when setting it up in the CRM, to also make sure that when you're sending email, you are specifying that subdomain, because I see a lot of people use these email marketing platforms, and then the message will show up, you you'll see something like sent on behalf of, and you can kind of see two different emails, and one looks very odd, which, you know, from my trained eye, I can see that's a misconfiguration of their system, which that could also potentially cause issues with deliverability and things maybe not making it to the inbox. So that's something else I
Well,
just want to throw out there as well.
yeah, because I believe that that's almost like in something that we would maybe a cloaking device that is cloaking your email address, but it becomes very obvious when it says sent on behalf of. And those are things that the email host look for, and the host being the domain, the providers, Google, Yahoo, Microsoft, iCloud, they're looking for that kind of behavior because, again, spammers will try to cloak their identity and hide who they really are so that they can spam you. So we don't want to do anything that makes us look like a spammer. And so hi Kim, thanks for joining us today.
Hi. Yeah,
Hi.
unfortunately the messages that we got sent us to the wrong Zoom. So,
Okay, yeah, we'll fix that. Yeah.
okay.
All right. So today's subject was about your CRM cleanup and eliminating duplicates and cleaning up your tags and your categories. And then we got on the subject of David is a cybersecurity expert, and so he's weighing in on some questions that we had that came in on the email. So did you have any questions today about your systems
I
in
don't,
general?
I don't know enough to be able to ask questions. I don't
Yeah.
have systems in place yet. I'd love to
Okay.
get them going. So, yeah.
Fantastic. So before you decide which direction you want to go or which kind of system you want to buy, what what kind of basic question would you be asking, maybe asking yourself or
Mm,
someone at Best Buy, maybe?
I don't know. Um, I guess if things can get automated, obviously that makes it a little bit easier. I just, I guess I don't have enough business right now to to have that demand. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah, I
is
hear you.
growing. It is growing. So
That's fantastic. Yeah,
yeah.
so almost the question sounds like, at what point do I need to buy a CRM?
Mhm.
And which CRM is going to meet my needs? And one of the most the it's kind of funny because ever since I started in this business, I pretty much answer everybody the same way. And people think, how in the world can you give everybody the same answer? Their businesses are so unique and different, right? Well, that's
Hmm.
because my answer is the best CRM for your company is one that you will use. And that stems from the fact that people, they buy what they either think they need, or they buy the one with the most bells and whistles, the one they feel like if it costs the most money, it's got to be the best. So they buy that. So they buy a system and then for a variety of reasons, it is too complicated or it is not powerful enough, or they don't understand the importance of putting in the time to customize it and get it ready to use, then they don't use it. And so I feel very strongly that you do not have to buy a system that has a bunch of bells and whistles that you're not going to use. If
Right.
you only need a place to put your leads and send out a newsletter and periodically send them, let's say, a receipt if they buy something, and periodically send them a reminder of something you're doing. For example, the reminders that I sent for this. You could start with something very basic like MailChimp or Aweber or one of those kind, and they cost a lot less than the CRMs where there's the intense amount of power and lots of modules that you can do. And so the nice thing about that is some of the entry level CRMs, you're able to migrate some of the assets that you built into a more powerful system. So, asking that question of yourself or of an expert is very wise because, well, it's like when you go to college and you're not sure and you're undeclared that first freshman year, you want to take classes that are going to translate into a degree that, and it's a very similar process. You pick the CRM, the basic entry level one that's going to be able to migrate at least some of your material into a more powerful one someday. And um, but yeah, you don't have to start with the big daddy one, and the expense does not have to be high. The most important investment that you can make in a CRM at the point that you're at where you don't have one yet and you're just deciding, uh, I've got all these manual things. I've got things here and here and there and there, and it's driving me crazy. And it's actually, if I might put words in your mouth, it might be holding you back from growing your business because you're trying to manage all these things.
Hmm.
Then, then you want to talk to someone, have a strategy session, and then someone like me or David, we can say, this is probably going to be the best one for you right now. And then you'll feel confident. And so here's the thing, my advice to business owners when they're my clients or they have a strategy session with me, one of the most important things you can do every day when you sit down to run your business, you open your CRM, your calendar, and your email. That's the lifeblood, the three systems that you really need to be looking at when you're conducting your business. And if you don't open your CRM, if you don't um, make that a habit and internalize that into your daily work, I'm sitting at my desk, I'm going to run my business, I have to open this and this and this. Then if you don't make that a habit, you're not going to be opening that CRM and using it. And therefore, then you get frustrated and then you really start to resent the money that you're paying for it because you're not
Mm,
using it. So it's a pretty vicious cycle. And I feel like
sure.
it's a habit, a system, a process that you want to go through every day and get used to using it. Because once
Yeah.
you use it a few different ways, you're going to say, holy cow. For example, in a CRM, almost all of them, they have one central place where communication happens. Now, I use
Hmm.
Go High Level, and so does David daily. That's how I run my business. And in that one, on that contact record, in that one place is emails, text messages, interactions with my website bot, if they're talking on my website bot, some of the even social media DMs can show up in there, all in one place. Because I will tell you, since I've been in business, it's just gotten more and more prominent, more and more prevalent every year, even now monthly. If I'm talking to someone and let's say I have an answer for them, they asked me a question a couple of days ago, I have the answer, I want to get back to you. Where is this person talking to me? Is it text message? Is it email? Is it on my website through that communication? Is it in the DMs, in a say Facebook DMs? And it is, I feel like I waste so much time just trying to find that, or on
Yes,
WhatsApp,
believe me, I understand that. I understand that.
right?
And
Just
I
trying to find
understand
the
also,
place.
yeah, I also understand DMO, daily method of operation. So, yeah, we definitely have to, if we want our business to work and run well, we need to do these things. And David, I haven't met you before, but I'm sure you guys were having a great conversation before I came. And I'm
Hmm.
actually thrilled, Rita. So I've taken a few classes with Rita before. She's amazing.
Aw,
But that you have like specialists that are joining you. So yeah, I really
yes.
appreciate that.
Yes, we're actually going to have a leads expert joining us periodically, a business coach, and accounting expert people, because people have all of these things are your systems. And many of these things are outside my zone of genius because I build and customize the CRM for you and with you. And so if someone asks a question outside my zone of genius, I want to have another genius here to be
I
able to
love it.
answer it. So
Yes, I
thank
do
you.
love it.
Good.
Mhm.
And actually, Rita, on that note, I did want to mention something you were saying earlier about, starting with the basic system. I'm going to counter just slightly from my experience because, and I've seen this a lot when I've helped businesses do email migrations. When you have to migrate systems, what a lot of people don't factor in is, what is the future cost going to be to me when I outgrow this and have to move versus finding something that can kind of grow with me from day one. Because now you've got to migrate your data. You got to set up a whole new system, and then you got to get that data to fit into that system where it may not necessarily be a one-to-one transfer. And as you mentioned earlier, there may be some stuff that can't migrate,
Well,
especially when you're talking about the CRM systems. So that's something I always like to, kind of caution people on is don't just pick what's going to be good for today, because what's
right.
good for today may not work for tomorrow. And that's why when you go talk to an expert who knows, okay, I understand like go high level for a lot of business getting started, it may be a very much overwhelmed, have a lot of features.
Yeah.
But if you are working with an agency that can help control that, a lot of that stuff can be turned off so you're not visually having to see it. And then when you're ready, it
Yep.
can be toggled back on.
Yes.
So there is that to kind of consider. So I will caution any business owner out there that don't just go with something that meets your specific needs for today, but what are going to be your needs, tomorrow, a month, a year, 5 years down the road?
Right. Yes. When I do give that advice, I definitely quantify it that way. And that's the other thing. When you are looking at, let's say your business plan says, well, within 1 year, I'm going to triple my business. This is in my business plan. Then you definitely want to start with the CRM that you're going to need at that time, even if you don't need it today. If your business is fledgling and you're part-time in the business and you're not planning to scale soon, then there's a lot to consider. All I'm saying. And I love the fact that David brought up that certain CRM systems, you can turn off these functions that you're not using. And a lot of people say to me, there's just so much in there. I just can't even keep track of it. I only need my contacts and I want to schedule appointments with people. That's it. And so we can just turn off all the other stuff that's amazing and in there. The nice thing about that is now you have a system that's scaled down to what you actually need now. And you don't have to move, migrate, or copy or rebuild anything when you are grown into a place where you need more. We just flip a switch and now the other features are turned on and everything is already integrated.
Yeah,
So
but now
excellent,
you just save
excellent
some
point.
additional future expense from having to pay to migrate and pay for another
Yes.
expert to do that.
Yes.
Because I know when I go, specifically with email systems and help businesses move, I don't think they realize, kind of how, for lack of a better phrase, how much they shot themselves in the foot by
Yep.
going this. But again, it's, they only knew what they knew.
Yes.
But now they're having
Yes.
to pay this extra expense to migrate versus if they already had and maybe they just need it better managed. Well, it's just a matter of coming in, doing a little bit of cleanup, maybe a few hours of time, and you're off to the races. So that's again from what I've done over the years, just with that same principle applies to CRM systems.
Yes, exactly. Excellent. Excellent point. So we have another question, and we have just enough time to answer it. Kim, did you have any more questions?
No, like I said, I'm really not at a place where I'd have a ton of questions, but I want to learn. And actually, David, what you just said helped me a lot, you know. And I think, well, maybe there is a question.
Here we go. Good. A lot of times they'll bubble up.
Okay, so you were saying, it could take time and you got to pay somebody to move things over, whatever. So what might be the charge for something like that? I mean, um how do you charge a client for that? Is it like by time that you spend doing it, or is it by the job or
So the way I typically will structure these is, yes, I'm going to look at what's going on with the business specifically. Like for example, on these email migrations, it's always important to know, okay, how many users, because I know for each user we need to migrate, that my time estimate I usually put in per user is 2 hours worth of time. So let's say it's a business of 10 users. So that's potentially 20 hours we might spend. And I know at an hourly rate what that would be. And then I look, okay, there's always going to be some unknowns. So then I like to set them up as a fixed project fee where then we'll give the business the option. You basically will pay us half now, half upon completion, so it's not a huge lump sum to get it done up front. And I say that because I've learned over the years from doing this that some users are going to have more data, some users are going to have less. Then you got other things such as like shared boxes that might have data that need to be moved as well, which from a migration standpoint should be treated just like a user because you're going to do the same amount of work to move the data. Um, and this, again, same principle can apply when you're migrating CRM because you got to look, okay, how many records are there? What customizations do you already have set up? So these are all things that we need to look at. What automations do you have that need to be rebuilt? Because from one system to another, they're all going to operate a little differently. Like before I went to go
Mm-mm.
high level, I was in another platform. It wasn't a true CRM, but it had the email stuff, and even their terminology was a little different. So even then having to figure that out, wrap my head around it to understand, well, okay, this is not that, but it's this. So there's those kind of pieces. And once we kind of know where you're coming from, how much is there, what we got to do to where you're going, then that's kind of how we can figure it out. But when I do migrations, because if I know if we do it hourly, the cost could overrun so quick. Because there's something that's always going to happen that's going to cause us to probably spend a little more time than we initially anticipate, more often than not. So if we kind of can plan for that, and that's how I come up with my average amount of time on a per user for that, and that's how I will initially build out my project scope.
okay, can I ask you what the average hourly cost would be?
And for which aspect? Because again, there's a lot of variance, whether we're talking, email migration versus CRM migration, or so is there something specific you're looking to find out what it would cost
No,
you?
I'm just well, because you're saying you might have this cost if you started with something else and then come back over. So I don't know even what the costs are of the different CRMs or the different things that you might be using. But let's just say, I mean, for how much is Go High Level a month?
It's going to depend on where you get it from, but if you want to just go based on go high level standard pricing for, the standard plan, they charge about $97 a month. And then
Yeah,
un-
I
and
think
then
that's
uh, and then understand depending on what you're doing, you have monthly variable charges based on the volume of emails and texts you do that go on top of the monthly.
oh wow. Okay, so I didn't even know that. But let's just say you're talking about $100 a month for Go High Level, and then I don't know, something super simple. Maybe it would be what, $20 a month or something like that. Super simple. You just got, so you're talking a difference of $80 a month. So 800, whatever, like almost $1,000 by the end of the year. So if the migration, if you're saying look at 2 years out, what you want to be doing, or 3 years out. So now you're talking like $3,000. So would it be more than like $3,000 to do a migration?
Again, that's going to be dependent on, how much data is there, how much customization. So there's too many variables to give you a definitive, but I don't think I've ever done a migration project for less than 500 or $1,000. Um,
Okay.
Yeah. And I did one
again,
this
So,
year that was several $1,000s.
yeah, and so I get it. So it may be it's just like the frustration
but
probably
but
of
it's
doing a
not
switchover.
just the financial component there, it's also the time component that people don't
Yes.
factor in as well.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And that takes some time, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
that's why I
you
always recommend, if you know where you're going to go and you're going to get there within like a couple years, go with the platform that's going to be where you're going to need to be in 2 years.
hmm
Absolutely. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, that
And I'll
makes sense.
say one more thing about buying Go High Level for $97 a month. And that is akin to but way back in the day when we used to go to the store like Radio Shack or Best Buy and we would buy a box and it had software in it and we would take it home and put it on our computer and you're completely on your own. You need to know how to set it up and do all these things on your own. And so that's one component that an agency will help you with. So when you buy from an agency, I'm going to say average, David, they start around 297 a month, I would say probably, right?
It depends because I've seen them on average as low as, around 47, $49 a month because the agency gets to set their pricing.
They do, but they don't include very much. They don't include,
It depends on the agency because I know some agencies that charge very little but still give you a whole lot, and I know there are others that to get a lot you have to pay a lot. So it just
yes,
depends on the model of that agency and the principle of how they believe it should work. Because
sure.
there's another one I've worked with that we have a relationship through a networking group that we have on my end. And his philosophy is he doesn't believe in charging businesses a lot of money, but he for what he charges, he gives way more value than I think some of these businesses that will charge you hundreds of dollars a month, to use them.
Okay.
So it very much depends, and that's why you've really got to talk to these agencies before you just jump in bed with one and realize, because I think we saw that with someone we know who had made at least what two different switches between agencies
Yes,
because
yes, yes.
Oh,
Now, and one more thing, and we're just about to the top of the hour. And one very important thing, since we're on the subject of buying Go High Level and going through an agency, one of the most important things you can ask an agency owner is if you want to leave their agency someday and go to a different agency, take your account and go to a different agency, will they release your account? Because if they will, then everything that all your contacts, your tags, all your structure, all your automations and pipelines, everything will be encapsulated and moved to the new agency as a whole, and your account stays perfect, right? If they will not release your account, then you have to build everything. You can take your contacts out, and I think tags, take them out. Everything else you have to rebuild. So this is
Wow.
very important. If you're going to buy Go High Level from through an agency, then make sure when you read the contract it says that you'll be able to leave and that they'll release your account. And because it's 100% or 0%, you either get your entire account and it moves with you, or you get nothing.
So different places sell Go High Level,
That's
and
correct.
oh my goodness. And so it's not the same across the board.
It is
Correct.
the same software. Go
No,
High
no, no, no.
Level.
I get that. But
Oh,
I mean, like whatever they allow you to take with you, it's not the
Well,
same.
well, like they're supporting their offerings and potential migrations between agencies. Yes, that will vary agency to agency.
that
Wow.
is true. And that's what you're paying for is their support, their advice, their strategic, the things they do for, there's a whole lot behind the scenes when you're running, using a CRM in your company that needs to be set up, and the agency does that for you. And if you buy straight from Go High Level, you have to do it yourself or hire someone to do it.
Oh.
I know it's scary. Now I'm scaring you, aren't I?
It's all good. I mean, like I'm sure, and the other thing is like if you're using that, that's a tax write-off for you.
It is.
So
That's absolutely right.
I
yeah.
Yes.
mean, look, you think about it this way. I mean, you're in business to do what you do, and again, I don't know what you do, but assuming it's, generic business for now, you're not necessarily getting in business because you want to do accounting unless you're an accountant. So you typically will outsource a lot of the accounting stuff. Same for businesses, a lot of them will outsource HR. Um, all those different things. And this is just another one of those things, you're not getting in the business to have to figure out how to manage a CRM. You're going to hire an expert to help get it set up so it can help run your business. And yes, like you said, it's a tax write-off. You typically, the setup is going to be a one-time upfront expense, get it done,
Right.
maybe get some training on basic daily operation, and you're off to the races.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you, both of you. And I
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for being
right.
here. This was a great discussion today.
Oh, well, I don't know what I added to it. I'm sure you guys
Well,
like
I'll tell you what, Kim, I
watched.
think you verbalized a lot of questions that are in a lot of listeners' minds. And you did a great job with that. So it gives us a chance to explain some things that it's on people's minds. People want to know.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes me feel a little better. But I'm sure if I listen to the recording, I'll be like, oh, but you know what? Maybe like at the beginning, what you guys were talking about is some of it's probably going to go like right over my head. But it'll all be good because, I am growing the business and so yeah, I will be needing things like this. So really appreciate it.
Yes. So, for the listening audience and for anyone watching the replay, if you say, look, this is so exciting, I love this, I want to be in this, it's every Thursday at 12 o'clock Eastern Time, and you can get reminders, automatic email reminders from me. I'm going to hold up this QR code here. You can scan this QR code and register for this event, and then we'll send email reminders to you so you can remember to jump in here, get your questions answered every Thursday right here on Zoom. Thank you both for being here.
All right. Well, thank you.
Bye bye.